All right, so what's our first, what are we looking for?
Right here we've got a nice Staghorn Sumac bush.
Okay.
And it's got the red berries on it, and it's edible right now, as we're going to find out.
The berries are edible, or?
It's actually an acid flavoring on the outside of these berry clusters.
What?
Now, first of all, I should explain that this obviously isn't poison sumac, or I wouldn't be grabbing it like this.
Yeah, like as soon as you said sumac, I'm thinking being a kid and my grandfather being like, get away from that sumac, it's poison.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Any sumac that has red berries, especially when they're in this tight upright cluster like that, it's not only not poison sumac, it's an edible sumac.
Okay.
So, because poison sumac has drooping clusters of greenish white berries.
That's right.
So you can see very easily that this isn't the same.
So you kind of already bring up, I think for me, what would be like the major question that I have about foraging is, how do you do it safely?
Right.
Right? I mean, like, it's great that there's a bunch of edible species, right? But there's probably a bunch of poisonous species here too, right?
There are. I'm happy to say that the risk of getting seriously poisoned from eating a wild plant in New England is relatively low, because the vast majority of our poisonous plants taste horrible. So
the moment you would taste it, you'd just be like,
right, that's right.
And spit it out.
Right. So, so my advice is don't eat plants that taste bad.
Good advice.
That it doesn't mean that every edible wild plant is going to be delicious straight from the bush or the vine or whatever. A lot of them require some kind of advanced preparation.
Yeah.
But if you see a plant that you think is edible and you pick it and you bring it home and you prepare it according to instructions and you got a big steaming plate of it in front of you and you take a bite and it doesn't taste good, you might not want to override that danger signal your taste buds might be giving you. You might have made a mistake in identification.
Interesting. But you say that generally speaking, even if you make a mistake, you got some kind of a field guide, you think you're picking one thing, you get something else. Chances that at first bite, if you taste it, it tastes really bad, that you're going to get seriously sick are pretty low?
Well, you really need to ingest a wild plant to get sick from it. If you put it briefly in your mouth and you spit it right out, the worst that would happen is that you feel nauseous for a little while. And it's probably because you scared yourself to death more than anything. I mean, I should say that I didn't learn this stuff by walking down the trail and popping stuff in my mouth and see what happens. You know, all that trial and error work has been done by Native Americans and many people over eons, and so we can benefit from that accumulated knowledge. So the way that I learned this stuff is I read books about foraging, and then I was able to go outside and find the plants that I had read about. And I realized it's hard for people is to make that leap from the page to the actual plant. And so that's why I do these foraging walks, so people can build up their confidence and feel that they've got the right thing.
Do you find that people are, like some people anyway, are like reticent? Like when they, you know, they see you sort of pick something right off the tree and you're eating it and they're sort of like, shouldn't you wash that? Or shouldn't we get somebody to test it first? You know?
Right. Well, you know, everybody has their own level of comfort about what they want to do. Some people, you know, even they'll go on a walk with me and they'll be very entertained and they'll go right back to the supermarket buying everything wrapped in plastic. I don't consider that a defeat, you know, because everybody has their own comfort level about what they want to do. And some people, the idea of nibbling on wild things is intriguing, and other people it's scary and they don't want to do it, and that's totally fine. From midsummer onward, these ripe berry clusters form in the plant and it produces a tart flavor in the outside of the berries, and that's the edible part. It's actually not the berries themselves, it's a flavoring in the outside of the berries.
Okay,
and so what I do to test the berry cluster to make sure that it's good is I'll lick my finger, I'll just jam it in there and wiggle it around a little bit, and I'll take it out and lick it again. And I want to get a nice strong acid flavor. And if I get that, then that berry cluster is going to be good to use. And if this one, you can test it yourself. Just lick your finger and jam it in there.
I'm going to test it myself. Licking my finger.
Just jam it in there, wiggle it around.
Wiggling it around.
Then test it again. Lick your fingers again.
That's good. That's good.